This week on ANN, Seventh-day Adventist leaders expressed their condolences in response to the recent tragedy in Paris.
Students at Oakwood University stand in solidarity with students in the U.S. state of Missouri who are protesting against racism on a university campus.
And the nation of Fiji officially inaugurates its first Seventh-day Adventist president.
These stories and more coming up.
This is ANN, a service of the Seventh-day Adventist World Church.
Thanks so much for joining us this week.
First in the news, the world watched with agony as reports filed in about a coordinated terrorist attack that took place in the city of Paris last Friday. The attacks included suicide bombers, gunfire and grenades, and hostage situations in heavily populated areas of the city, including a soccer stadium, a crowded concert hall, and restaurants. The attacks left 129 people dead. Since then, the president of France, François Hollande, declared the attacks an act of war and has mobilized 115,000 security personnel in the city. Numerous leaders of the Seventh-day Adventist Church expressed their sympathy and condolences in the wake of the attacks. Ted Wilson, president of the denomination, on his Facebook page, called for members to pray that the country will return to safety and peace. He went on to say, quote, "May dire situations like this awaken all to the need for God and His love to be supreme in our lives as we see prophetic events taking place which herald the Lord's soon return," end quote. Reverend de Abreu, president of the Adventist Church in France and Belgium, also expressed deep dismay of the brutal attacks that left Paris in mourning. He wished, quote, "that the soon gospel of hope, the promise made by Jesus Christ, will soon be realized when He will wipe away every tear. Death shall be no more, neither mourning or crying or pain," end quote.
In addition to also sharing, quote, "deep consternation," end quote, of the events that took place in Paris, Mario Brito, president of the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Inter-Europe, also issued a statement which addressed the suicide bombings that took place in Beirut, Lebanon last week and left at least 43 people dead. Brito said, quote, "Terrorism is growing more and more uncontrollable." He went on to say, quote, "Human life is precious in God's eyes. When people turn away from God's directions and wisdom, they become a threat to the freedom of those who unfortunately cross paths with these agents of Satan," end quote. We here at ANN also want to remember and pray for those who are grieving as a result of the roadside bombing and a suicide bombing attack that took place in Baghdad last week and left 26 people dead and wounded at least 46 people.
Colleges and universities across the United States recently stood in solidarity with African American students attending the University of Missouri who peacefully protested against the school's administration for failing to address numerous racist occurrences on campus. The protest eventually led to the resignation of the university's president. On November 12, students of Oakwood University, an Adventist university in the U.S. state of Alabama, joined a nationwide social media campaign to support the students in Missouri. In a short amount of time, Sandra Watkins, the president of the campus's chapter of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, or NAACP, organized the Oakwood University NAACP Blackout Day. Approximately 80% of the campus, including students and faculty, wore all black and sent messages of support to the students in Missouri via social media. Although Oakwood is a historically black university, with the majority of its students being African American, Watkins told a local news station that the race of the students in Missouri wasn't the sole reason for joining the campaign. She said, quote, "I don't feel it's ever right for a whole group of people to feel insignificant because of the color of their skin." She went on to say, quote, "We would take a stand for injustice anywhere."
We've previously reported on the unprecedented nomination of a Seventh-day Adventist to serve as president of the South Pacific nation of Fiji. Well, last week, Major General Gioji Kanusi Konroti was officially sworn in as president of the nation. His election is significant not only because he is a Seventh-day Adventist, but because he is the first person of indigenous Rotuma descent to occupy the position. The island of Rotuma is part of the group of islands that form the nation of Fiji. Before his inauguration, the Major General shared with Adventist Record magazine how he'll balance faith and the vigorous tasks he'll face as president.
Like, what prompted your decision to become a Seventh-day Adventist, particularly?
A lot of things, prompted me and the whole family to make the switch. The perception I had, with what's going on, reading the Bible and going back and comparing it with the secular history. Now that convinced me that I have got to do the right thing. Not that I don't like the other denominations, but you and I would understand that God has His time and place for everything.
I guess Adventists in Fiji in particular will be looking at you and holding their breath and asking themselves, is this man going to represent us as Seventh-day Adventists in a good way to the nation of Fiji?
Yeah, let's put it this way. Not only am I going to represent, I represent all the peoples of Fiji, regardless of religion, race, ethnic background. That's my guide. But the fact remains that I'm an Adventist.
So you're saying the Adventists in Fiji shouldn't be worried how you will represent them as an Adventist member?
Well, I don't think they should be worried. Our people are happy. I've been getting the support of the people. All I'm asking all Christians, including our Adventist people, is keep praying and keep righteous before the Lord.
In all your years of public life and leadership and getting things done, what are your guiding principles there?
All right, good question, Ken. The simple military answer to that is I'm very much guided by my conscience, and that is based on what is right before the Lord. Before I make a decision, I was asked that question many times in the past. I get on my knees and ask the Lord, is this right before you, Lord? And if it is, that's it. That's what's going to be done.
Students from a Seventh-day Adventist school in Panama recently had an opportunity to present the nation's presidential couple with a gift that made a big impact. During the 112th anniversary celebration of Panama's independence, a teacher and students from the Metropolitan Adventist School presented President Juan Carlos Valera and his wife, Lorena Castillo de Valera, an Adventist Bible. The church's recently published Bible was designed especially for women. Mildred de Cubilla, the teacher who made the presentation, told the First Lady, quote, "We wanted to give the Bible to you so that it can be your main guide as you lead this country along with your husband," end quote. Later, the First Lady thanked the Adventist Church on her Facebook page. She said, quote, "I opened the Bible to Psalms 112 years of independence. It cannot be more clear. The Lord continues to guide us. Thank you," end quote. Javier Castrellon, Education Director for the Adventist Church in Panama, emphasized how the exchange was a great opportunity to represent the institutions in the country that, quote, "follow the Adventist philosophy and the principles of the Bible to fulfill the mission of the church," end quote. The nation of Panama has 34 Adventist education institutions with a total enrollment of more than 5,000 students.
In northern Colombia, the Seventh-day Adventist Church in the region recently held its first camp for visually impaired individuals living near the city of Bucaramanga. The three-day camp was sponsored by Christian Record Services for the Blind, which is a U.S.-based organization. During the camp, 40 young people and adults from a government-run workshop school participated in physical, social, and spiritual activities at the church-owned El Bamboo camp. According to church leaders, the camp was organized in response to a call throughout the Adventist Church's Inter-America region to minister to people with special needs both in the church and in the community. Ezekiel Rueda, Director for Special Needs for the Adventist Church in North Colombia, spoke about what it was like from an organizer's perspective. He said, quote, "We wanted to show them that the church is interested in their well-being." He went on to say, quote, "It was a very unique experience to see their excitement, their happiness, how they enjoy every moment and every activity," end quote. Rueda, who also gave devotional thoughts throughout the program, spoke to the participants on the hope of seeing Jesus with their own eyes during the second coming. Herman Gomez, manager for the workshop school, thanked the Adventist Church for organizing the event. He said, quote, "During this event here, I have seen that disabilities have been set aside in the background and great values and the potential to move forward have been highlighted."
Hundreds recently flooded the streets of Puerto Rico's capital city to spread awareness of the seventh-day Sabbath and to discuss the benefits that God intended for us to enjoy during the 24-hour period. More than 650 people of all ages held banners, sang songs, and distributed literature on the Fourth Commandment throughout San Juan. While the Adventist Church throughout the island nation of Puerto Rico frequently organizes marches, this is the first time a march has focused solely on the Sabbath. The march concluded with a praise and worship program at the Plaza de la Democracia. Participants of the march shared the following messages to onlookers and community members, saying the Sabbath, quote, is a Christian day, a day for God's family to partake. It was identified as a day of rest. It is God's recipe for human stress. It was chosen by God and cannot be changed. It belongs to God, and its observance is a profession of love for Jesus, end quote. Ramon Rodriguez, a participant from a local Adventist church, expressed his eagerness to do this type of event throughout the nation. He said, quote, if we can do this activity with all of the churches in East Puerto Rico, we can reach so many more people with this message.
An Adventist church in the U.S. state of California recently raised thousands of dollars to assist initiatives that provide clean water to developing countries around the world. The Azure Hills Seventh-day Adventist Church raised more than $7,000 through a benefit concert that featured all the church's musical groups. The 2-hour live-streamed concert featured 11 groups of all ages. The money was raised for a clean water initiative of the Adventist Development and Relief Agency, which is the humanitarian arm of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Keturah Reed, who organized the event, has more on what inspired her to put on an event to support ADRA's Clean Water Initiative, and her reaction when she learned how much the church had raised.
Well, the inspiration to do this fundraiser started back in February when I attended the One Project conference. That's where I heard Jonathan Duffy speak. He is the president of ADRA, and I was so inspired by what he had to say. At that moment, I thought to myself, perhaps I could plan something at my church and help support the great work that ADRA is doing. I was so excited when I found out how much we raised. I prayed, so many people prayed. I was hoping for at least $5,000 where we could build one well, but we raised more than $7,000. That's incredible, and we're still getting donations. If God impresses something on your heart, do it.
The United Nations has declared November 20 as Universal Children's Day. This is a time to focus on the welfare of children all around the world. Linda Coe, Director of Children's Ministries for the Seventh-day Adventist World Church, has more on the church's initiatives that promote the wholeness of children.
We also have activities that help them bond, grow in socially and physically. So we have Sports Day, and we also have just regular campouts and to help children learn to work as groups. And one of the things that we want to, especially in the grouping of social one, is to teach them the importance of service to the community. So we have service projects in many of our children's congresses and children's camp where they go out there to spend half a day to help serve the community.
Coming up, learn about a children's evangelism series in northern Myanmar.
But up next, thousands participate in a dynamic camporee in Brazil.
During communism, corporal punishment, it was just the thing to do. That meant I have to put my hands out, and I would get so many hits on my hands that instead of having the dip, it was puffing out. I would pray that God would keep me safe. My name is Adrian, and my prayer was answered.
Welcome back.
And now we have more news from our global church community.
Thousands of young people were recently charged to find ways year-round to devote their time and energy to God and their communities. Revista sent this report.
Grandes encontros são feitos de grandes momentos. De nada adianta falar de uma mega cozinha, de um palco incrível, das mais de 200 caravanas, dos 8.000 jovens adventistas de 6 estados do Nordeste, da animação da galera, dos louvores, das mensagens, dos testemunhos, tudo em altíssima produção, se não houver experiências. E experiência não envolve multidão, e sim pessoas. Gente que se sacrificou para chegar até aqui, deram o máximo para estar em um evento como este.
Eu era um andarilho, um drogado, e hoje eu tenho um encontro com Deus no Campuri. Tive um encontro com Deus como eu nunca tive na vida, e uma vida transformada, em nome de Jesus.
Campuri não atrapalhou meus sonhos, muito pelo contrário, abençoou a minha pessoa, da minha família e acredito que de todos os jovens que estão aqui presentes.
Com encontros noturnos que iam até altas horas, a galera se viu motivada, acima de tudo com ações nas ruas, praças e praias, como o Dia de Fazer o Bem, que ocorreu no sábado pela manhã. De fato, esse era o espírito do Campuri.
Campuri não é um mero evento social, não é uma simples atividade de entretenimento. Campuri não é um show gospel. Campuri é a oportunidade que o jovem tem de se aproximar de Deus e fazer mais por Ele.
Nesse Campuri nós desafiamos os jovens, especificamente em 3 projetos. Missão Caleb, os jovens doando as suas férias para Cristo. Um ano em missão, os jovens doando um ano de suas vidas para Cristo. E pequenos grupos, comunidades que servem à sociedade, salvação e serviço, a vida inteira prestando relevantes serviços à comunidade.
O cenário é paradisíaco, as circunstâncias são ideais. As pessoas não são apenas silhuetas, mas histórias com grandes experiências. E tudo termina neste momento, no batismo, que simboliza o encontro com Cristo, uma experiência para toda a vida.
O Campuri terminou. Os 8.000 jovens voltaram para casa, mas ficou a sensação que a experiência marcou, e para sempre.
E o recado que a gente tem para você é o tema desse Campuri que diz:
The Kalay district of Myanmar recently had its first children's evangelistic meeting that was organized by the Seventh-day Adventist Church. The 11-day series took place in the church's northern Myanmar region. Nearly 500 children, teens, and youth actively participated in the meetings. Children led out in every aspect of the services, including song service and preaching. One of the sermons was delivered by Brong Kiang, a 15-year-old who spoke about how God forgives sins. Kiang, however, wasn't an Adventist, but attended a local Adventist school. During the meetings, he gave his heart to God and decided to get baptized at the end of the series. He was one of the 113 children and young adults who dedicated their lives to God through baptism at the end of the series. Organizers say it was especially inspiring to see 5 Burmese children among the group to get baptized, since Burmese are typically staunch Buddhist.
And finally in the news this week, in an effort to raise awareness for a fundraiser that will help construct an Adventist school in Buenos Aires, province of Argentina, a 68-year-old man has committed to ride 6,000 kilometers, or 3,728 miles, on his bicycle throughout the nation. Nuevo Tiempo sent this report.
Y estamos específicamente en el terreno donde en algunos meses, Dios mediante, se va a estar construyendo, a empezar a construir una nueva escuela aquí en Escobar. Ramón es el que va a realizar un viaje en bicicleta desde La Quiaca hasta Ushuaia. Y hoy estamos con él. Ramón, gracias por acompañarnos. Un placer tenerte acá con nosotros y este va a ser el terreno donde se va a construir entonces la escuela. Pero déjame preguntarte primero, Ramón, ¿hace cuánto tiempo que venís realizando estos viajes con bicicleta?
Bueno, hace que tenía 14 años ya hice 100 kilómetros, pero últimamente cada 3-4 años hago travesías. La más larga fuimos al Campuri de Brasil de 2005.
Ramón, ¿vos tenés idea de cuántos kilómetros vas a hacer desde La Quiaca hasta Ushuaia?
Aproximadamente 6.500 kilómetros. La travesía que vamos a hacer son 6.000. porque vamos a hacer zigzag, ¿viste? Para entrar en ciudades y cosas así, entonces es más largo que el trayecto de Ciudad de La Quiaca, sea directo, son 5.800.
¿Qué es lo que te motivó a vos a sumarte a este proyecto Todos por una Escuela?
Uno, porque yo no tengo cómo colaborar en forma económica, ¿no es cierto? Y la otra es que mis hijos todos estudiaron en colegio adventista y estoy tan agradecido y que eso, digo, me gusta tanto la bici que puedo poner eso al servicio de la escuela, ¿no es cierto?
De dónde uno saca fuerzas para, bueno, todos los días levantarse, y en este caso la travesía va a durar 2 meses, y de dónde uno saca fuerzas para enfrentar todos los días y las rutas, la subida, la bajada, la lluvia, el sol.
Es como la vida cristiana, cada vez que pasa el día, pasa un nuevo día, nuevamente te encontrás con Dios y Él te motiva a seguir la travesía de la vida, porque es así, ¿no es cierto? Lo mismo pasa con la bicicleta. Hay días que vos parece que querés abandonar todo y pensar en el objetivo, nuevamente te motiva a seguir.
Still to come, learn how you can control what you see on your Facebook newsfeed.
But up next, find out where you can register for the next Global Adventist Internet Network Conference.
Welcome back. For this week's Tech Corner, Brett Harding, web manager for the Seventh-day Adventist World Church, shares a preview of the 2016 GAIN conference.
Each year, communicators and technologists from around the world gather for the annual Global Adventist Internet Network Conference. Over the past 2 months, we've been planning the 2016 event and are excited to let you know that registration is now open. This year's theme, Telling Our Story in a Rapidly Changing World, is focused on technology, design, and communication techniques that can help us tell God's story to the world around us, with speakers from companies like Microsoft and Amazon, as well as ministries like ADRA and Adventist World Radio. We are inviting technologists and communicators from around the world to join us February 24 through 27 for 4 packed days of inspiration, networking, and spiritual refreshment. This year's GAIN event will be held outside Washington, D.C. at the Seventh-day Adventist Church's World Headquarters. In addition to inspiring and thought-provoking speakers, the event will also include a visit to the museum in Washington, D.C., a bus tour of downtown, and a chance to see the IMAX film Jerusalem. You don't want to miss out on these great speakers, interactive discussions, and opportunities to network with mission-focused communicators from around the world. We will continue to update the website over the next few months as we confirm plans and add new speakers to the schedule. So visit gain.adventist.org for more information about the program and to register.
Do you sometimes get annoyed or offended by posts that appear on your Facebook newsfeed? For this week's social media report, Angela Taipei shares some tips on how to make your Facebook feed a happy place.
I don't know about you, but sometimes my personal Facebook page can be a bit overwhelming. With hundreds of posts flowing through from people I once took a class with 10 years ago, it may be easy to miss what my close friends are sharing. And before you know it, scrolling through my feed to find something interesting has taken more of my day than I ever intended. In order to help curate the content in your news feed, Facebook has created an algorithm to show you posts from friends you interact with the most and content you click on most often. But with a little bit of time, you can help personalize your Facebook experience by indicating what you don't want to see. When you're in your newsfeed, click the arrow in the top right corner of a post. There you can choose to either hide that specific post or unfollow your friend, or the original source of the post or article. If you hide the post, you'll be less likely to see posts similar to it in the future. By unfollowing someone, you remain friends with them, you still have access to their page, you can still write to them and comment on what they share, but what they post on their page does not appear automatically in your newsfeed. By minimizing the distracting content, you open your feed to see more from the people that you care about the most.
And now let's turn to Benjamin Baker for a look at Adventist history.
We're glad you can join us again for This Week in Adventist History. In This Week in 1926, the periodical African Division Outlook featured an article by the Foreign Missions Secretary of the European Division, Walter Edwin Reed. Reed reported of a revival in the interior of the Gold Coast, modern-day Ghana. Many villagers throughout the region had turned to the Christian faith and were worshiping on the seventh-day Sabbath. What was so unusual about this revival was that the leaders in the Gold Coast mission had no idea who the individual was who was leading so many people to Christ. When John Jacob Hyde, superintendent of the mission, went to investigate, he found scores of Sabbath keepers in several villages. Concerning who brought them to Jesus, all the new converts could say was that an old man was here and he taught us what we know. After days and many miles of searching, Hyde finally found the old man, who lived at the end of a village on a cocoa plantation. It turned out that the man, whose name is lost to us today, had learned the truths of Adventism secondhand from those who had heard the good news when Adventist missionaries had first come to Ghana so many years ago. The cocoa farmer evangelist told Hyde that if the mission sent a teacher to the villages, he'd relocate to another place where the gospel had not been heard and win souls there. Reed ends the article by reporting that upon this man's suggestion, quote, now we have teachers located in those places, and many of the villagers that the man brought to Christ have already been baptized. Today we spend the whole segment highlighting this nameless man's story in tribute to the countless individuals around the world who have spread the everlasting gospel, but whose names we do not know. Their names are known in heaven. And that's This Week in Adventist History.
Thanks for watching ANN. Join us next week for more news from the headquarters of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
In the meantime, join our global conversation on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can connect with other Adventists worldwide through more stories, photos, and videos. Visit Facebook/Adventist News, Twitter @Adventist Church, and Instagram @Adventist Church.
Our good news for this week comes from the book of Ephesians, chapter 3, verses 20 and 21. The passage says, now all glory to God, who is able, through his mighty power at work within us, to accomplish infinitely more than we might ask or think. Glory to him in the church and in Christ Jesus through all generations, forever and ever. Amen.
Amen. That's our program for this week. And remember, you can always visit news.adventist.org for daily news and videos. Until next time, God bless.
Take care.